We talk about ninja focus mode. We were just like I'm like holding my breath, like trying to lock in. But yeah, but they're getting there, and they're gonna be really good soon. They're good
I think they're good
now.
Next tour, you've got it nailed down.
But
Hi, you're watching DIFFUS, and I'm here with Kat and Mike from Scowl, all the way from California and Philadelphia. You're not just here because of the interview, you're also on tour with your new album, Are We All Angels, which is a bit different from your first album. It goes a bit more in the direction of alternative rock, there are, say, pop punk as well. How has that changed the live experience for you, how you go about shows, like the overall vibe of a show?
I don't think it really changed.
It hasn't changed like dramatically.
Even though the songs are kind of different and more like singy, and if you want to call them like poppy or rocky, melodic. I feel like we still play it as if we're like at a hardcore show. Yeah. So it like still, even though I don't know, it's been interesting hearing how we play the songs live, because I think how we play them live sounds a little bit different than the record, because we still play it with like the energy that like we're in a punk show.
Yeah.
So
I think the one thing I've noticed with this new album and playing these songs live is there's a lot more people right up front singing every lyric, and there's less open space in the crowd where there would be like maybe a mosh pit or something. It still exists very much so, and people are still diving and definitely getting crazy.
Bro, the diving.
The diving, but I will say there's quite a few rows of people now like just singing along and like pointing up at us and
it's been a lot more singing.
Yeah, it's really exciting, honestly. That's been really cool.
You're also part of this new development that I've seen the last year or two, where we see more heavy bands on television again. Yeah. It's amazing, like late night shows. We've seen Turnstile, we've seen Not Blue, Somatic and Pussy. How is that, being like a band that comes from hardcore and punk rock and is probably used to playing squads and, you know?
It's insane.
It's weird.
It's kind of crazy.
It's good weird.
It's
bizarre. Like
I feel like
not really like I don't know about you, but I haven't like come to full terms or like it hasn't sunk in.
A lot of times we're just like, what the fuck are we doing
what
here?
The fuck?
Like, how did we get, like, it's just funny. We're very grateful for all these opportunities. Like the late night show thing was, none of my friends got to play late night shows in their bands. So like I got to bring my brother and my best friend. They got to be in the audience and they were just like, why are we here? Like, and it's really funny. And everyone in my family was like, was it the craziest thing you ever did? I was like, we played in front of 100 old people. Like,
it was the most bizarre thing we've ever done, like in a good way. Wonderfully bizarre, for sure.
It's really funny because I was thinking back about, you know, we had this era of rock bands in mainstream, or heavy bands in mainstream, in like the 90s and early 2000s, where you saw Nirvana and Rage Against the Machine, Slipknot on TV. In the last 10-15 years, that didn't really happen, I feel. Do you remember, like, when you were younger, seeing some, like, heavy band on TV and being like, yes?
I would religiously watch, like, the Green Day playing Letterman when I was a kid, and, like, them just playing all those late night shows. I was just, like, Blink-182, Green Day, I think My Chem.
Well, I was gonna say, I was very much a part of the YouTube generation, so, like, I remember being pretty young and seeing, like, some VH1 and, like, some MTV music stuff, but not a lot. It was YouTube where I saw a lot of videos of like My Chemical Romance playing MTV New Year's Eve, I think, and apparently it was like such a big moment for them, and like I got to consume that after the fact, but it was a big moment for me to see that and to see how that like kind of culturally, like the cultural impact, and then like I think zooming in now to current day, it's really weird how counterculture has just kind of evolved, where like seeing a band, like a rock band on late night or just like on television in general, it's different than it was in the 90s, of course.
I would say it's more meaningful that we get to do that because we kind of all grew up watching our favorite bands do it.
Yeah.
While like, I feel like maybe a lot of kids now, maybe they didn't grow up seeing their favorite bands doing that kind of stuff. So it just kind of meant a lot for us to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, but do you feel like both as musicians and as fans that heavy music is getting more popular now in the mainstream again?
For sure.
Yeah. I think that there's an ebb and flow to it, and I think that the last probably almost 10 years now, there's been this slow shift with music that is more on the alternative side, whether it's guitar driven or not, but just, you know, counterculture as a whole has become a lot more like attractive to young people because of where the world is, and I think where like American politics are, and there's a lot of reasons for young people to be looking outside of what's in front of them to find connection and to find solace, and to feel empowered, you know? I think on that side of things. And I think people get tired of hearing the same stuff. And we have like a lot of short form media that takes up so much space, and I think it's important to still be like, for young people to be searching past that for something different, you know?
I think something cool that's also happening is this kind of, you know, mainstream and subculture or counterculture starting to influence each other, also in terms of music styles.
Absolutely.
I think you said in an interview that one of the influences for this album in terms of singing vocals and vocal production was actually Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
So what do you think, what did you learn from like pop artists, and what can like heavy bands in general learn from those big artists?
I think that it's, you know, it's important to practice a level of like discernment. I like saying that a lot lately. Just like thinking like, how does this affect me directly? How do I feel about this thing? And pop music is something that for a long time, when I was younger, I wanted nothing to do with, and I thought it was super whack. And but at the same time, one of my favorite bands of all time is the Beatles. Like, they kind of carved out what we know as pop music in a lot of different ways. And I had a moment personally where I fell in love with Billie Eilish's music back in 2018, and it felt kind of sacrilegious because I was like, well, I don't really like pop music, but it really hit me. And I started to open myself up and just like kind of allow whatever felt right sonically and felt like I identified with to just kind of pass through like my fishing net, I guess. And I think it made me a better artist. I think it made me a better songwriter, and instead of like trying to achieve something that made me feel like I identified a certain way, I was just achieving something that felt good when it comes to the art and the songwriting. And so maybe perhaps like on the alternative spectrum, like, or heavy music, like what we can take as a collective from that is like, write what feels good, write what feels right to your identity and feels correct inside, and maybe like less about like trying to conform.
Yeah, after you released your first album and you started to shift towards this like different sounds, did you also feel like maybe you've said everything you can say with like hardcore as a musical style? I
think to some degree, yes, and to some degree, absolutely not. I think there's always more to be said. I think you can agree with this, like especially with like music like hardcore, you know, punk as a whole. And part of what is so attractive about it is the fact that it offers you so much of like a different way of saying what you want to say. I think going into Are We All Angels though, I wanted to take the heavier moments personally, like the screams and things, and be like a lot more intentional about how and when that came up in the song. And so in a lot of ways, like it still felt very hardcore. Maybe the songs don't sound like traditional hardcore songs, but there's still like that essence that existed there because of that.
Yeah, the lyrics are very like heavy and dark, but then what I like about the record is that it still sounds kind of playful and light. Was that like a contrast that you wanted to achieve, or what was the vibe and the feeling you wanted the music to have in contrast to that?
I feel like the songs were just this record was just like the most collective thing we've ever done musically. Everyone kind of had their own hand in this record, and it just turned into this really beautiful project. And I don't even think I don't even want to say accidental, but we wrote the music kind of with us, and then Kat kind of just, we didn't even know what Kat was gonna do until after the song was recorded. So like when we knew Kat made like a personal goal to like try to sing on every song on the record. And then when we would hear it at the end, it would just be this beautiful mixture, and it just kind of turned into.
I definitely had a couple like prerogatives internally that like I kept it pretty internal because I didn't want to like set the goals and like really make it obvious to everybody and then have them have expectations about it. Like I really didn't want to set any clear vision about how it would end up sounding like. I just knew I wanted to sing on every song. I knew when I screamed, I wanted the screams to be very intentional and to like feel emotional. And I remember also thinking how badly I wanted to write sad songs that sound happy. And some of those songs I do think like have that feeling of like driving by the beach with the windows down, like very like fun and flowy, but like the lyrics being like, I'm sad. Like this is very like grief fueled,
I feel like that's just how we all kind of are as people too. We're just like, oh, like
we keep it pushing, but you know, we're sad people.
It made sense. We're like, oh, this makes sense that it ended up like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since a lot of the lyrics deal with this sort of pressure of being perceived and the sort of alienation you get from like people just having opinions about you, how do you think those like opinions or how you're perceived have influenced this album, both in terms of like content and music?
I think part of deconstructing like writing music that had to be hardcore or punk or this way or that way, like, and instead pulling back and just being like, I want to write songs that feel good and songs that communicate what I'm going through, and like just like really hold that emotion and those feelings and those experiences and like really honor them with the song. Part of that was also letting go of like, oh, people are going to be thinking this, people are going to say this, people are going to da-da-da-da. Like it was like, no, I actually don't care. I started a band and I started a hardcore band because I wanted to start a hardcore band, and if other people had opinions on that, I always felt this way and still do, like, then they should feel empowered to go start their own band. And that to me is one of the biggest messages behind hardcore music is like, get involved, do something. And art as a whole, I mean, not to make this conversation take up so much space, but like, it's supposed to make you feel something. So whether that's discomfort or comfort, you know, being seen or feeling extremely unseen, you want to take that and do something with it, right? So to me, it was just important that I did something with what was existing inside of me, and to not be concerned with other people's opinions on it. And the right people were going to connect with it, you know?
I think I read something you said in an interview where you also said that you've kind of been inspired by drag in terms of, you know, seeing yourself as this public character. So do you think the Kat that's performing with Scowl is somehow a bit dissociated from your person privately?
Absolutely. I think that it's really important for me personally to disconnect the two, because if I overindulge in this like exterior idea of myself, like I don't have an identity outside of that. And I love Scowl and I love the fact that like we do this and it's a very large part of my life, but it's not everything in my life. And if I didn't think about it like that, I think it would be really, really, it would derail me sometimes. And it has in the past, so I have had to kind of like split it apart and compartmentalize personally. And it's so much bigger than myself. Again, like it's art, like I'm a part of this. We are the nucleus of this band. You know, we make the music and we perform, but it also goes and is consumed by so many other people, and it's also theirs too, you know.
I think it really like paid off in the terms of you know, just the stuff you tried on this album. I think you took like a lot of risks. There was a lot of things where I'm like, oh wow, they're doing that. Didn't see that coming.
Like what the hell?
What was like, which song was like the most difficult, or maybe not even difficult, but adventurous to like record and write?
Fleshed Out, maybe I would say. That's probably
in a way. It's
ones.
a really weird one, but it was like very adventurous. That's a good word. A very adventurous song. Because I think it was one of those moments where every step of the way we were all looking at each other like, should we? Should we? And we were like, yeah. Like it was just this like silly, fun, light, very experimental feeling. And I love when that happens in writing. I love writing music like that and being like, this is weird. Like, should we just keep making it weirder?
It's the one where we got too creative. And when we brought it, we had like a whole mapped out idea of this song. It was originally called Palindrome because it starts the same way and then it like finishes the same way it started. And that's what a palindrome is. And we like brought it into the studio. We're like, we're gonna do this. And Will was just like, okay, but what if we just made it like an actual song? And we were like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Well, and I think that like goes back to the like songwriting philosophy behind this record is like, oh, like let's do something weird, let's have fun with it, let's just express ourselves, but let's also just make it feel good. And that song ended up exactly how it should be because it feels so good and weird and like out of the box. I think that song was really difficult in that way though, because it was challenging, but I'd also say "Are We All Angels" was like it was weird. It was another like, are we really doing this? Yeah, okay. It's bizarre. Let's do it.
That was one of those. Hey, I got an idea. It's gonna sound like someone's putting their finger on a record player,
and like pulling,
and fucking it up, and like just messing with it, and then me trying to explain that to another human being while being like really excited. They were just like, "What?" Like, But then it came out perfect.
I remember the first time we like successfully played it through when we were writing it and I like was recording it and I was just like sitting there like I was just like so juiced about it. So I'm very happy about that one.
Also, we just started playing those two songs live on this run and it's been fun trying to like nail it. Like every night we get a little bit better.
Yeah.
The first couple nights we're like,
we're just holding on for dear life.
That's it. They were like, when we talk about ninja focus mode, we were just like I'm like holding my breath, like trying to lock in. But they're getting there, and they're gonna be really good soon. They're good now.
I think they're good now.
Next tour, you've got it nailed down.
But
yeah, I mean, with Will Yip, you also have had a producer that I think is very good in like getting like hardcore and punk rock bands to that like new territory.
That was the best.
How do you think he helped you shape this new record, this new sound you have?
He just understood the mission.
Yeah,
like
he did understand.
Probably more than we did.
That's why he's a producer. That's why he's got that job. That's why. Yeah.
We would just come to him with our ideas, and he was just the best. Just so inspirational, like when it came to helping us, and he would just like get us stoked if we were feeling like kind of iffy on something we brought to him. He would just find a way to get us so hype and inspire us to like add to it or to make it like the best version it could possibly be.
He was a great hype man. And for me personally, when it came to vocals, he and I really saw very eye to eye on like production and just like style. And he was really able to like bring great performances out of me by just hyping me up constantly. That was really nice. That was really good.
Also, this record is the first thing that I ever got to record with Scowl, so that was my first time working with him.
Yeah.
And it was just a delight.
He's great.
Yeah. So moving forward, what would you like to achieve still? I mean, it's kind of wild when you think about it. That's just your second album, because like even as a fan, it feels like there's been like lifetimes where I've been like seeing you progress and evolve. And also like seeing you get bigger and bigger. Do you think there's kind of like this conflict of, you know, keeping this kind of DIY punk rock ethos while like going further into like mainstream territory?
Yeah, it's absolutely a challenge. That's something that's important, and there's like always concern about it. We talk about it a lot, actually. We talk about our values in this and how we can constantly like show up for that, show up for ourselves in this experience. And like, I think one of the biggest goals at this point is just like us having fun and making sure we're all like present for the experience and happy. We also really want to tour Japan. like there is like stuff like that too.
Still
we still want to like tangible,
goals.
real, like I want to do this and I want to do that. But I feel like for a long time, like a lot did happen. A lot like has led up to this moment, and there's been a lot of lifetimes, and it's only been a couple years of like really hammering, and now I think we're for the first time like able to stand back and look at the work, and be like, whoa, like okay,
What you did,
yeah, okay, we did that. What, like, I think it's weird for us all to like take a breath. It's not natural. So right now, we're learning how to do that.
We're trying to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm very excited to see whatever is coming up. We'll
Thank
keep
you.
our eyes and ears peeled. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having
being
us.
here.
Appreciate it.